Hello, everyone. Brother Al McLean with this week's stewardship video, and I'm so excited. We are closing out the second quarter, so that means we're going to start getting into some meaty, heavy earnings that are coming up, and it'll start at the end of the upcoming week, as well as hopefully everyone had a great 4th of July. You celebrated Independence Day, our country's freedom, and hopefully part of your freedom mantra is if you are saddled with debt, you're going to free yourself from that debt. And if you're saddled with low savings, you're going to free yourself from low savings. Now, before we go too far, let me always read the disclaimer. No advice should be seen as a recommendation or endorsement, as I'm not a licensed financial advisor. It's for educational purposes only. Please do your own research. So the title of this week's video, and I'm so excited about. I'm always excited to do these because this is my passion, if you will. This is definitely my passion. This week's video is "It is never too late." It is never too late, and the main quote I want to use is C.S. Lewis. You are never too old to set a new goal or dream a new dream. You are never too old to set a new goal or dream a new dream. And C.S. Lewis is a great Christian author. That's the backdrop of this video. And I've got two pictures here that set the stage. One, my dad, my beloved dad, who went on to be with the Lord. You all have heard me mention in the many teachings that I've been getting out of his life. And this one is also a teaching from his life. So to the left, I've shown this picture before. That's Tim Lewis. He is the founder of 4D Trader Institute. And you can see, again, not a recommendation or endorsement, but look into them if you're interested in futures trading, which is what that group teaches. And Tim Lewis is the founder, and he also spoke at my dad's funeral, but he's the founder of 4D Traders Institute. And you can see, you can pause the video, that's the website, and here's a picture of him and my dad. My dad learned to trade futures at a very what one would consider older age. He was in his 80s, maybe 75 at the earliest age that he started trading futures. And he was almost exclusively trading futures up to his death. And he learned it through Tim Lewis's group. So all the way up until the time of my dad's death at 85 years old, he would go to their trading community, which meets every morning through, and this is a paid subscription. I mean, it's a paid product, but the point is, at an elderly age, or what others would say, I mean, he was in retirement, but others would say, oh, you can't teach a new dog new tricks. You've heard that before, but that's not even biblical. And I'm going to show you later on someone who learned new tricks at an elderly age in the Bible. But my dad, in his 80s, was trading futures. And before then, I told you, he inspired me to learn, and he taught me about options. And that was like in his 60s and his 50s. So he was learning, continuing to learn things even at an elderly age. Now, to the right, you see my dad, and I put these two pictures together, a friend of his who was also his tax preparer, Dwight Sheehy, and I gave you his contact information. But Mr. Sheehy is not only an alpha brother, my dad's, but he prepared his taxes, but he also had a product called Priority Pay, and you can email him. There's his email address. You can, contact him, go out to the website to learn more about it. And what it was is it's the snowball. We talked about debt snowball, where you pay off one debt, and then you start increasing the amount into another debt. And then each time you pay off a debt, you don't start living off of that money. You start applying it toward the other. So it's the same methodology and concept Dave Ramsey talks about, but this priority pay group that Mr. Sheehy is a consultant on, you can call him. My dad has started doing that. So in his 80s, he has started whittling down his mortgage debt. And that was basically the only big debt he had left. But I find it interesting when I was looking at his arrangements and doing his affairs, that he has started aggressively paying down his mortgage. Again, in his 80s, going back to the C.S. Lewis quote, you are never too old to set a new goal or dream a new dream. mean, so people would say, and I've heard people say this when I'm coaching them in stewardship, oh, I'm too old to get out of debt. It just is what it is. I'm too old now to pay off my mortgage. Oh, you're never too old to set a goal, a dream, a new dream. And I thought that was interesting. One of the things that my dad was doing in that area as well. So here is that biblical person I talked about, Moses. So let's first start off with Proverbs. Proverbs says in verses 20, verses 29, I mean, chapter 20, verse 29, the glory of a young man is their physical strength. And we know we have all kinds of energy. We run around when we're younger, right? And the honor of aged men is their gray head representing wisdom and experience. So where we may lack, and that's only, some cases, energy, or you feel like your physical strength is weighing down, you've got experience and wisdom. And in Exodus chapter 7, verse 1, and then going on to chapter 2, verses 5 through 7, New Living, then the Lord said to Moses, pay close attention to this. I will make you seem like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. Tell Aaron everything I command you, and Aaron must command Pharaoh to let the people of Israel leave his country. So here's a mission that Moses had. Now take a look at what age he had this mission. When I raise my powerful hand and bring out the Israelites, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded them. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 when they made their demands to Pharaoh. So you're never too old for God's purposes, and it's never too late to have a goal. So let's look at Deuteronomy again, and we see at Moses's death, it's saying he wasn't weighing, from a physical standpoint. It was just the Lord said it's time for you to go, right? Moses, look at Deuteronomy 34, verses 5 to 7 in the Message Bible. Moses died there in the land of Moab. Moses, the servant of God, just as God said, God buried him, and what an honor. God buried you. God buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Nupor. No one knows his burial site to this very day. Now listen to this. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyesight was sharp. He still walked with a spring in his step. His eyesight was sharp. He still walked with a spring in his step. So at that point, it was just, it was time for him to go. I mean, the Lord has said, it's time for you to come home. But the point is, he was still physically able. He still was mentally able. He still could do the mission that God had. And I say for us, God has a purpose on us, and it doesn't matter what the age. So let's go ahead and transition over. Take a look at, as I was saying, excited about this week's market as we're closing out the second quarter. Hard to believe we're now in the third quarter. So the companies will start to report their second quarter earnings. And as we always do, close out with Delta, we close out with a transportation, but we kick off, that's Friday, with the financials reporting. So you've got Citi, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, State Street. Those will be reporting, and it looks like JP Morgan Chase on Friday. That will move the market, right? The market will be watching that. And then we know we start going into just weeks, 2 or 3 weeks of major earnings that will move the market. So with that, is there opportunities? Again, not a recommendation, not an endorsement. Do your own research. And what prompted this is a picture of me. I had a doctor's appointment with my eye doctor, retina specialist, on Friday. I see them every 3 to 4 months. And these are some electrodes hooked up to my head. I got to looking around at all this equipment and all the people that help Dr. McHenry, who's my retina specialist. And I'm like, there's a lot of money when it comes to medical. And we know all of us doing whatever stage of your life, sometimes we have to see a specialist. There's a lot of investment possibilities in this area. So here's a couple of things that I found when I went out to Charles Schwab. And Charles Schwab has this thing called thematic investing. So you can go out and look up stocks related to aging. And one of the ones that showed up was pharmaceuticals. There's Eli Lilly. Healthcare providers and services. You can see there. Equipment, REITs, and REITs are real estate investment trusts, which related to nursing homes, assisted living. So there's a way to get exposure to that. And you can also, if you don't want to look at individuals, we've always talked about, do an exchange traded fund. Here's the exchange traded fund for the health industry or sector, XLV. Do your own research, as we always say. So here's an area that could be related, to aging. And remember, the title of this video was, it's never too late. It's also never too early. Here's a picture of my niece, Taylor, which is my sister Michelle's daughter, Taylor. And she and I were having a discussion when we were talking about looking for opportunities. What do you see out there in the world? What's going on? And one of the things I did is a review for her, something I've done for you all before, the TSA checkpoint numbers. Those are security checkpoints when you go through to get to your gate at the airport. Look at these numbers. This lets you know we are almost pretty much fully recovered. So 2019 was pre-COVID numbers. 2020 is COVID year, and you can see the difference. But let's take a look, starting comparative days of June 29th through the year. So there's 2019, June 29th, going into the 4th of July holiday. Look at the number for this past June 29, 2023. Over 2.7 million people went through the security checkpoint. That's that's a record for that day in the last 4 or 5 years. Now look, as we build up to over 2.8 on that Friday, and then the weekend, and then a lot of them started to return. This only went out to 7/6, so the 6th of July is where the numbers of, I look back out, and you could go out to just do a Google search, TSA checkpoint travel numbers, and you can see this. So me and Taylor were having a discussion. First of all, the obvious one is they're flying on planes, right? So there's a potential investment opportunities as people are getting back to flying, right? United, Delta, whatever your, American Airlines, or Jets, JETS is that exchange traded fund. Look out there if you just want to do it that way. But also, they're going somewhere. So me and Taylor were talking about, hey, hotels could be an opportunity. There's bookings. There's Hilton, Marriott. There's Expedia. How do you book your travel? So these could be, again, opportunities. So what was the name of the video? It's never too late. Also, it's never too early. So Taylor is, less than twice my age, and we're talking about these type of opportunities. So you're never too young to start looking at things like stewardship, investments, and opportunities. And what she has the advantage of time on our hands, but we also know that the Lord, never too late, he has a way of supernaturally redeeming the time. All right. So as we always close out, here's QQQ. We're still in an uptrend, but we had a little bit of selling because there's some, things about layoffs out there. There's some other rumors, and it's almost pretty much baked into that there's going to be a rate increase again by the Fed, most likely in July. Then we'll see from there. So that there was some selling toward the end of this week. We'll see what the earnings have on the effect going forward into July, but still in an uptrend. Here's SPY, SPY, uptrend, a little deeper selling than QQQ. And so that's it for this week. I'm super excited, but this is my favorite part of the week anyway. This is my passion. This is my purpose in life. Hopefully you are learning from this, and I'm on the journey with you. Got a lot of exciting things that God has put on my heart. I mean, I've got videos for the next 2 or 3 weeks that God has put on my heart. But as we always know, sometimes God calls it audible. And that relates to the fact that he's sovereign, as we always say in this video. He's sovereign, therefore he's the owner. But you and I are his faithful stewards, following the principles that he sets in his word for his stuff, his resources. As always, go out, Like and subscribe if you want by doing a search on the YouTube or my name, Al McClaney, or you can email me or reach out to St. John email and get put on the distribution list. So until next week, keep a good spirit, as my pastor says, and have a great yabba dabba do good time. See you next week.